Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to season 13, episode 3, overall 663 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can also call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership right now, winter is still here in southern Ontario. The cold temps, the snow. If you're looking for winter tires for the rest of this year and maybe next year, right now there's a Save the Winter tax going on at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Just go see Lisa Vinek in the service department, and she can hook you up with some quality winter tires there at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership. And also, with the cold temps still here for another month or 6 weeks, get your battery checked. Right now at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, there's a 12-volt battery charge test that's free. That's right, it's free for 12-volt batteries. And if you happen to need a new battery, you can receive a $20 instant rebate for a new battery as well. And generally with 12-volt batteries here in gas-powered cars here in southern Ontario, they usually last about 3 to 5 years. So if you want a piece of your mind, get your battery checked at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and see Lisa Vernick in the service department as well. Great products, great customer service there as well. I want to say happy Valentine's Day to everybody here on this Saturday, February 14th, 2026. I celebrated my Valentine's Day yesterday with my friends at the Cambridge District Humane Society, Daisy and Christopher. So make sure you check out my Valentine's Day picture with Daisy and Christopher, all the animals down at the Cambridge District Humane Society that are up for adoption. And it's a great place to adopt a pet. So again, happy Valentine's Day to everyone, including to our furry pets as well. So I'm excited to have our guest here on this Saturday, February 14th, 2026, episode 663. And she is from the city of Chicago, which I've been to twice, and I'm excited to have her on. I met her through social media, and her name is Allie Masterson. She is a pre-licensed clinical therapist in Chicago, and we're going to bring Allie on right now. Good afternoon, Allie. How are you?
Good, Chris. How are you?
Good. I hope that opening was okay.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
How things in Chicago, Illinois right now? Is the weather warming up like it is here?
Yeah, it actually is. We had some freezing cold days, I think, like you did as well. And it's finally starting to feel like spring, even though it's still mid-February. So yeah, we're on the up and up.
We still have about 2.5 feet of snow here. So it's going to take a little longer to melt, but I think it will start melting at some point.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It was like basically this winter was like the winters I knew when I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. And it was an old school winter. And I think our weather here near Toronto is similar to Chicago's too, with the 4 seasons, and the winters can be harsh too.
Yes, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of Valentine's Day, I've got to ask you this. Mm-hmm. Chocolate or flowers? What do you prefer for Valentine's Day? Chocolate or flowers?
That is a good question. I think for me, it's flowers, because flowers remind me of poetry and literature, and that is what I love. Though I'm partial to chocolate, I think I prefer flowers. What about you?
For me, I would say chocolate. But
Mm,
I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't had chocolate since October 2017. I had to give it up.
why?
At that time, I was heading towards diabetes, so my doctor kinda gave me a little bit of a scare, and cut off chocolate since then. It wasn't easy, but and the thing is, if I started on chocolate again, I guess you could say I'm one of those guys that's a chocoholic. If I get a
Oh,
taste of chocolate, I can't stop.
got it. Yep. Yep.
So
It has an addictive quality.
absolutely, and that's one of the things I'm working on too now. I'm seeing a dietitian and nutritionist and just trying to lose weight, just be more active and feel better too.
Yeah, and if that's for your health, then that is a priority. So that's been going well for you?
Yes, I take one day at a time, and I walk dogs twice a week at a local humane society too, so that helps. I take the dogs out for 45-minute walks each.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good amount of walking. That's great.
I love being around dogs too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love dogs as well, and my family has always had rescue dogs. So,
Same here. I rescue dogs and
mhm.
adopt, but don't shop. And dogs that just, I just, there's one group on TikTok. It's called the Canine. It's
Mhm.
on a bus in Wisconsin, and
Yeah,
she posts. You seen it, the Canine
yeah,
Convoy?
yeah.
And I love watching that video every day. And I feel like I know all the dogs because I watched the videos every day. And it's just amazing. They all get along and they don't fight. It's
Yeah.
just nice.
It's really,
So.
really cool, and you can see all of their personalities, like, they're humans. It's very cool.
So what's the name of your dog? Do you have a dog right now?
I don't currently, know. That's definitely on the bucket list for the next year or 2, depending on how the next stage of my career, which will be coming up soon. But,
So
my sister recently adopted 2 cats from a shelter. I don't know if you're a cat person.
I have a Siamese cat named Latte. She's spoiled rotten. She looks like Grumpy Cat, so I'll have to send you a picture of her.
Yeah, that'd be great. My sister, her cats' names are Chocolate Chip and Oatmeal Raisin after the cookies.
And Latte is named after a drink, latte.
Oh, they go together. I like it.
Yes. Yeah, and she was adopted from Humane Society 6 years ago.
That's great.
So
Yeah, amazing.
now, Ali, are you originally from Chicago?
Great question. I am actually. I was born and raised here. I moved away when I was 18, and I have lived abroad because I'm a Spanish speaker. So I went to some Spanish speaking countries to study and work. I lived on the West Coast of the US for a while, and then I came back to Chicago about 10 years ago.
What was that experience like being on the West Coast compared to the East Coast?
That is a great question. I think I'm more of an East Coast or Midwest type person. The West Coast wasn't particularly for me. I think the lack of seasons, like we were talking about just beforehand, growing up with the seasons uh, during the year, winter, spring, summer, fall. I don't really have that in Southern California, so I missed out on that a little bit. But other than that, being right near the ocean is something that, we have the great big Lake Michigan here in Chicago, but the ocean is obviously something totally different. So I really liked having that for a while.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. The four seasons. What are your two favorite seasons?
Great question. Spring and summer for sure. For sure. What about
I'm
you?
gonna go I'm gonna go with fall and winter
Oh,
because fall and winter. Fall because it's baseball playoffs, the NFL, and it's sweatshirt hoodie time weather. And then winter because my allergies don't act up. I have like hay fever,
mm,
pollen, and I find in May, June, July, and August, my allergies are really bad from the pollen from the trees and
yeah,
from the grass. And so for me, fall and winter, and I find our summers here are getting hotter and hotter too with the humidity.
ours are too. Yeah, there's definitely climate change affecting all of the seasons everywhere. That is for sure.
What makes Chicago such a great city to live in?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, obviously, I'm biased because I grew up here, but I did leave and I chose to come back. Um, I think besides the seasons, I do really like the culture here. Um, the Midwest also is like a very friendly, welcoming place, and a lot of people are willing to go out and meet other people and make friends. And that's different in other regions of the US. It's not exactly that friendly. And I think that the sports that we have year round, like it really adds an atmosphere, even though I'm not much of a sports person at all, the atmosphere to be around that, especially spring, summer, fall, uh, adds a lot, I think, to the Chicago experience. We have great history, architecture, museums, restaurants, people who love food, like the Michelin star gourmet restaurants we have, all of those options. I think
The
I could
deep,
go on and on.
the deep dish pizza, the deep dish pizza. Now I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who has the best deep dish pizza in Chicago, in your opinion? I have my opinion, but I wanted to hear yours.
I mean, of the chains that people know, I would say Lou Malnati's over Giordano's. I don't know what you think.
Gio O'Donnell's. I had it at Navy Pier, and when I first went in there and they said, "Oh, it takes 45 minutes to an hour," I'm like, "Really?" And you know what? It was the best deep dish pizza I ever had. But
Yes.
next time I come to Chicago, I want to try some other ones as well. It's very filling, only 1 or 2 slices, and I
Yes,
and
and
I
they're
was
good
filled up on it.
because it's so thick. Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the other foods that you love in the city of Chicago? Which reminds me of Toronto, by the way.
Reminds you of what?
Toronto, very
Oh,
diverse,
yes.
multicultural, diverse
Yes.
food, music, sports, everything. It's very similar.
Yes. Yeah, that is how I would describe Chicago as well. The diversity, like different groups of people from all different backgrounds. In terms of food, like my favorite food in Chicago is Mexican food. We have such good Mexican food. It's very authentic. Obviously, we have a large Mexican and Mexican American population. Um, but I also think, strangely enough, not being by an ocean, we have great sushi. We have great different types of Asian restaurants as well. I love Thai food. That's one of my favorites. We have some great Indian restaurants. We have like a whole neighborhood that's oh, sorry, my camera. We have a whole neighborhood that's just Indian restaurants and really cool things like that. So those are my favorite restaurants.
Have you ever been to Canada or Toronto so far?
Toronto is the only place I've been in Canada, actually. Sadly, I want to go so many more places, but when I got there first time, I was like, "Oh, this is like Chicago."
Just like the CN Tower, I went up to see the Sears Tower. It's not as high up as the CN Tower,
Mhm.
but you get such a great view of the city from up those heights.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. It's
Well,
beautiful.
hopefully you get back to Toronto too. And also, if you're a wine drinker, Niagara on the Lake is like our Napa Valley is in California for wines. There's like 140 different wineries in Niagara on the Lake.
Mhm. Oh, good. Thank you for the recommendation. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yes, so if you ever get a chance, and if you like festivals, they have the world famous Shaw's Festival there as well, and it's only about 20 minutes from the Buffalo border too. So I'm not very far from the states.
Yeah, yeah, that is really nice. I'll have to put that on my list.
Now, as for music, what kind of music do you like listening to in Chicago?
Oh, that's a great question. I love live music. Obviously, we have a lot of music venues and a lot of artists will come perform here since it's such a large city. I like to go to a mix. I love smaller artists. My genre is I describe it as like folk pop rock. So I really like artists like Noah Kahn, if you've heard of him. He's going to be in Chicago again. He played at Lollapalooza a couple years ago. But I also go see bigger artists at places like the United Center and Soldier Field, which is a really cool experience. And then, of course, any restaurant you can go to that has like a live band. Last weekend, I went out for drinks and there was just a jazz band playing in the corner of the restaurant unexpectedly. And it was such an amazing atmosphere to just sit and have a drink and listen to the music. So there's a wide range.
Music is like therapy too.
It is. It is.
It
Yep.
really
There's a
is.
lot of science behind that as well.
By the way, I've had a number of guests on from Chicago, not just athletes and broadcasters, but a number of comedians. Chicago's one of
Yeah.
the best cities for comedy, and
Yeah.
obviously second city, which we have one in Toronto too as well.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Second City is legendary obviously for the founders who were all a part of SNL and what that went on to be. And one of my closest friends from high school went through Second City's conservatory program. And she's a improv comedian and a great actor. So it is a really cool thing to have in the city too.
And when I do interview comedians and musicians, a lot of it to them, when I speak to them, it's like therapy for them. They use their life experiences to create music, or
Yeah,
they find comedy helps them get through tough times. And it's really a cheaper form than seeing a shrink.
sure. Yeah, that is true. I think therapy can be found in a lot of different avenues, and that is certainly one in art and expression. So music, acting, dancing, painting, singing, all of that for sure.
Sports too. Sports, it unites people too.
Yes.
And being a sports fan too, when my teams lose and frustrate me, it can be tough on the blood pressure too.
Yes, and it affects your mental health.
Absolutely. And Ali, since I brought you on here today, I am based near Toronto. Can you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I'm originally from Chicago. I've lived around and abroad, and I'm back here now. I am a fluent Spanish speaker, but I'm not Latina and I'm non-native. I studied Spanish in college. I got a master's in Spanish, and I was actually a Spanish professor for about 7 years before I decided to do a career change to therapy. So that's a little bit about me, and then also about my career.
Being bilingual, obviously here in Canada, it's English and French.
Yes.
When you learned Spanish, how was it difficult or was it easy to pick up?
Great question. I think there's a lot of factors involved in learning language. I was lucky enough to be very young when I started learning Spanish, and we know also from brain science that learning a language as young as possible makes it easier. So that was part of it for me, certainly.
Now, have you thought about maybe adding a third language, maybe like French in the future?
So actually, I did. I learned French and Italian in high school and college, and I used to be fluent in both. And I've actually lost a ton of fluency in both languages because I never have an opportunity to practice. It takes a lot of effort to find someone who speaks French in Chicago or Italian, but it's really easy to find a Spanish speaker. So I have to get back on my Italian and French.
And you know what? I really should learn another language too, because being in media radio, it helps, it adds, and also being a therapist too, it can give you more clients too, being able to speak different languages. And I really think it's a good thing, people being bilingual. And that's something I want to work on is maybe learning more French. Because when I was in school many years ago, I took French and I was okay at it, but I haven't really used a lot of it. And that's something I maybe want to look at as well, is to learn a little more French. Now, how do you say hello in Spanish?
Hello is hola.
Hola,
Yes.
hola. And how do you say goodbye?
Adios.
Adios. That one I should have known. Okay.
Yeah, that's a
So
familiar one.
since I have you on here today, I'm going to have to learn a little bit more Spanish. That way, if you do come back in the future, I can speak a little bit, because I think it's really good for you as a person in any career to be able to speak other languages.
I agree with that. Yeah. Yep.
Now, Ali, when did you develop the interest? When did you get that bug for the therapist industry and helping other people, helping clients?
Yeah. Thank you. This is a great question. I think for me, this has two layers. When I was very young, from my first memories, I knew that I wanted to do something where I could help people. I always felt like a helper. For me, that clearly became from a young age that I was going to be a teacher. And so I did that and I followed that path. And I think teachers are a helping profession. But along the way, I noticed that the favorite parts for me about being a teacher were supporting and encouraging my students and listening to them and, giving them advice and guidance if they ask for it. And after doing that for a few years and realizing like that's kind of the best part of teaching for me, that's what a therapist does though. I decided that I was going to look into doing a career shift. In the US, you have to get a master's degree in counseling or therapy to be able to be a therapist. So I went back to school, and I spent a lot of time studying and switching over, getting clinical practice, working with clients, and now I'm pre-licensed at the practice that I'm at.
You mentioned being a teacher. It's kind of ironic. My next guest on Monday, her name is Lisa Smith Swent. She was a longtime teacher, and now at the age of 57, she's a full-time stand-up comedian.
Oh my God. Good for her. That is so cool.
Much respect for teachers too, by the way. And I do
Yes.
speak once a month at local high schools here about the importance of careers and education. But education doesn't just stop in the classroom. Education is a lifelong process. And also, you don't have to pick one career when you're young and stay with it the rest of your life. You can have two, three, four different careers as well.
Yes. Chris, I really appreciate you saying that and the fact that you talk at high schools and schools about this, because I think that's a myth, at least that I grew up with. You have to have one career, you have to stick to
Yeah.
it, and it doesn't have to be that way.
You know, it's funny, Lisa, when I was in school back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, even
Mhm.
in my college days, I was always sit in the back of the classroom and I hated public speaking. I would play small and shrink in front of people. And now being 53, I'm very comfortable being in front of a camera, in front of people. And I love what I'm doing. And I'm hoping myself and other people can help inspire these kids too, because I think it might even be harder now to be a high school student than when we went because of all the technology and the downsizing and with AI and everything nowadays.
Yeah, I would imagine that too. Absolutely. And I have colleagues that work with teens and children. I personally don't. I just work with adults. But the way that they describe what high schoolers and other kids are going through, I can't even imagine.
How would you describe yourself as a teacher, and how much of that experience helped you to get into the therapy industry?
Great question. I think that I was a good teacher, which is hard for me to say because I don't always give myself the praise and accomplishments that I probably deserve. So this is me working on it. I was a very good teacher because I cared so much that the students were able to understand the concepts, the grammar, which was the hardest part. Um, and I really genuinely wanted them to not be stressed, to care, and to learn. And I think that those aspects for me with teaching and my character are something that carried over to being a therapist, because now I see my clients and I'm not teaching them Spanish grammar, but I'm helping guide them and process them through their life experiences. And I want them to care and to get it and to learn. So I feel like those parts are connected and probably some of the deepest parts for me.
If I could go back to school now, I think I would even do better. Like back then, I lost a parent when I was 13,
Wow.
and it was tough on me for a couple years. I actually had to see a therapist, and then I was told I'd never amount to anything, and it
Wow.
was tough. I had to grow up early, and I'm not alone. A lot of kids lose their
Yes.
parents young in life,
Yeah.
and I did okay in school, but I could have done better. And I think now with my life experience and my life skills, I think I would do much better now because the importance of education in the classroom or outside of a classroom is so important these days. Education and getting life skills too.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely. I'm really sorry that you went through that.
Well, you know what? Things happen for a reason, and I'm not alone. A lot of people out there have gone through what I've gone through, and I've proved a lot of people wrong. I was told I would never amount to anything, all this negative, toxic talk, and I got through it. So,
Yeah, you did. Good for you. That's a
and
strength.
And the one thing too, the stereotype, even today, if you go see a shrink or a therapist, you're crazy. No, it's people that refuse to go to see them are the ones that have the issues, in my opinion. Because I think
Mm.
therapists do a really good job and they do really help. Sometimes you need that outside perspective too.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I would love to bounce off of that because I think there is sort of a stereotype or a myth in our society about you really have to be crazy or in a horrible place if you go to see a therapist. And you don't have to be. I think therapy can be beneficial for everyone. And you're always learning to be a better person. And with the guidance of a professional who's like an outside third party, can really help you see things about your life that you can't see from the inside.
Can you tell our audience a little bit of differences between seeing a psychiatrist, shrink, and a therapist? And there are many types of different therapists.
Yeah, there are. So a psychiatrist, this is the case in the US. I'm not sure about Canada, but I think it's probably the same. A psychiatrist is actually a medical doctor. They had to go to medical school. So they did 4 years of medical school, probably residency, maybe fellowship. And they are the ones who prescribe medications. And they often don't see patients to talk about their feelings. It's just a quick appointment. You talk about the medications, how you're feeling about those, and then you're on your way with your new prescriptions. A psychologist is usually a person that will get some kind of PhD, like a doctorate in psychology, and they will be a little more specialized in one specific certain field. And then a therapist or a counselor is someone who went to grad school, got a master's degree. They are licensed, and they do a lot more of the 1 hour, once a week type sessions that are pretty like typical of therapy.
Ellie, I wanted to ask you this as well. Do you find more and more people nowadays are going to see psychiatrists, therapists during and after the pandemic, and then with all what's going on in the world right now, without getting into politics? Just want to get your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for asking. I think that I, like many other people, we noticed a shift after the pandemic happened in 2020 globally as a society. And so I think there was a lot that people were going through at the time that their eyes were open to. And I recall like an influx of client intake and inquiries, like people trying to find therapists and wanting to get clients. So that certainly started in 2020 and I think has carried over. And certainly within the US and everything that's going on here, I think that there is, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of doom and gloom about what is going to happen. There aren't a lot of answers. Things seem pretty dire and unsafe. And certainly that's affecting the mental health of many, many people. And I think seeking out therapy has become more normalized, more mainstream because of that.
What are your thoughts on diversity with therapists? Is it still dominated by a lot of females, or do you see more and more males getting into therapy as well?
That is a great question. I really love this question. I talk about it a lot with colleagues and other therapists. So for us, there's actually a lot more talk about racial diversity in therapy versus gender diversity. But I will say still it is a female dominated field. My cohort when I was in school probably had about like 25% male identifying individuals. So I think that's promising in terms of like the growth in that direction. I think that stems from a little bit of our society kind of telling men that they shouldn't be in touch with their emotions and blah, blah, blah. So why would a man be driven to the therapy field if he felt like his emotions were not something that could be in touch with? I think that's changing generationally. The other thing with being a therapist is that you have to have access to higher education. Sometimes if you don't have money, so there's diversity issues with different economical backgrounds also. So, and then of course, higher education within therapy has been the norm within white populations versus people of color. And so you have all these factors that are pushing mainly to make female, white, higher economical background therapists. And really, we need a whole range of people. And so part of the work that I'm doing and people in my generation as therapists now is trying to get different genders, different races, different economical backgrounds to join our field. And that's really what's needed.
How much of a challenge has that been? And also, if somebody is watching this show live stream or listening to an audio and they're looking to get a therapist.
Hmm.
What makes a good therapist? What are some signs into finding the right therapist for your needs?
That is a great question. I love it. Certainly, I would look for someone who has proper licensing because unfortunately, there are people out there that say, I'm a mental health worker, I'm a therapist, and you can just say that. But if you don't have a license, you never got the training. So I would certainly look first to make sure that they have a license, which means that they got all the certifications, all the classes, and the learning that they needed to do a good job. Secondly, this is tough because I think every single individual person is looking for something different out of therapy. Maybe you want to talk about anxiety, or maybe you want to talk about something much heavier, like the death of someone in your family, or something
Grief.
very specific, like my relationship problems. It's kind of a range. So certainly you want to look for a therapist that has experience in that thing that you want to talk about. Um, and then lastly, because we're talking about access to therapy, I think a good ethical therapist would offer lower discounted prices to people who can't afford therapy or don't have insurance. And that's how you know that they are practicing good ethics as a counselor and therapist as well.
How important is it to get more diversity involved in therapy? Because you're right, a lot of times where people want to go, but they can't afford to go. Do you find there's more opportunities now with therapists for people that are financially struggling to be able to go and see somebody?
Personally, I think so because I think the field is moving in that direction. First of all, our economy, at least in the US, is just getting worse and worse, and people can't afford to live. Um, but mental health is really important. And if we aren't able to offer discounted or sliding scale rates, the only people who are going to get therapy are very rich people. And then we have this equilibrium that's very off in terms of who's allowed to have good mental health. So I think that that is important. It's something that I want to work towards helping support. It is difficult, and I see more of it happening year by year.
Ali, what are your thoughts on AI and shrinking the job market too? Because a lot of people I've seen, even Canada, are losing their jobs because of AI. I know AI can be a good tool, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on it too.
Yeah, that is a great question. It's really, really hard to answer this one because I don't personally like the direction that I see AI going in, because it's working to learn how to take over human jobs. Um, I think that AI, the way that it's going, is going to push for a change in our society that's going to be very drastic because if we have 20, 30, 40, 50% of the population without jobs, how will we function? The system will collapse. Um, so that is something that, I know very doom and gloom, but it is a reality on the horizon. So I think that that's something that a lot of other people are also struggling with. Um, and for me as a therapist, all I want to do is for people like that is provide a human connection, me and them. Like I'm here, we're human beings going through the same struggle, and I want to help support you.
Do you see AI getting into the therapy industry as well?
I do, and actually, I feel like we're already seeing it go that way. I've heard and seen many TikTok videos, Instagram about people saying that they're talking to ChatGPT and AI as if they're a therapist. Um, and it's interesting because AI is using the words that a therapist might use. And I think people are having a sort of dystopian experience, having a very human connection with something that isn't human. And I see AI potentially taking over the jobs of therapists, but I'm hopeful because the one aspect that's missing is that human connection. And I think there will be people who are still searching for that. So for me, that's something I can offer that AI cannot offer.
And also, I noticed too, when you're on TikTok or social media, there's so many AI videos out there. It's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's fake,
True.
what's artificial intelligence, and that can affect people's mental health as well too.
Yes. Yes, that is true. I see it happening more every day. Even for myself, I think I can recognize the videos that are AI, and then I see something I didn't realize. But I think some of the AI videos are very traumatic. The ones that people post, I think, just to get more views. And that is affecting people's mental health as well because it looks so real.
Do you feel there should be laws in place for AI?
That is a good question. Right now, I might change my mind about this, but right now I would say yes. I think there needs to be regulations on AI, like there's regulations on many other things.
Ellie, where did you attend school, and who were some of your influences and mentors?
Great question. Thank you. So I've been to a couple schools because I have a couple degrees. I did go to the University of Iowa for undergrad in Iowa City, and that's where I got my bachelor's degrees in Spanish and religious studies, minors French and Italian. Then I went to Loyola University Chicago, which is a private Jesuit university, for my master's in Spanish. Um, and I attended the La Universidad de Valladolid, which is in Spain, for a year as well to study Spanish. In terms of therapy, my master's program was at Northeastern Illinois University here in Chicago. In terms of some of my influences and mentors, ooh, that's a great question. I have so many. I think my very first one that really got me thinking about therapy was Brene Brown, if you know her. She's wrote a lot of books and she's had a lot of TED Talks. She speaks on a lot of different platforms, TED Talks. So I recommend her. She talks a lot about grief, and that's where her mental health journey started, and it got me on mine. Another one that I have, I'm looking at my books over here. His name is Gabor Mate. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he is a Holocaust survivor. I believe he's in his 80s, close to 90s. And he became a psychologist, I believe in Canada, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I'll have to look it up. And lived most of his life there. But he was one of the first to study the real effects of trauma on the mind and body. And it came directly from his experience of being a Holocaust survivor as a very, very young child. That happened when he was very, very little. So he's a great speaker. He's an even more brilliant writer. And his story really influenced me about wanting to work with people who have been through trauma.
Ali, I want to get your thoughts on this too. Do you find nowadays in 2026 there's more trauma and more PTSD? I know with first line responders, paramedics, police, firefighters. Just your thoughts on trauma and PTSD, which is what post traumatic stress disorder.
Correct. Yes. This is a great question too. And there's a complex answer. I would say the spectrum for trauma has widened now within our understanding. I think 50, 30 years ago or whatever, trauma was very specific, like something traumatic had to happen to you, including going to war. And if that wasn't the case, then there was no trauma. And PTSD, even then, was barely even recognized. Now we have a widened trauma spectrum. So there's really, really big trauma, escaping war, violence, being a refugee, things like this. And then we have very, very little traumas, which could be as much as like a horrible breakup with someone you're in love with. You know, the trauma works in our bodies in very similar ways, whether it's on this side or on this side. You could also have prolonged trauma, which is like for some people in childhood, if you didn't have a parent that was supportive, ideal, safe, your whole childhood for like 10 to 18 years could have been trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And so we classify all of that within the range of PTSD, which is a diagnosis in our standard manual. And then CPTSD, which I'm not sure if you've heard of, but that actually stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's not a recognized diagnosis yet, but it will be soon because of the difference between prolonged trauma over a period of years or one massive big trauma. And so any of that could apply to some of the people you mentioned, first responders,
Military.
military, exactly. And even people who have been through war and violence, even people who have been through certain aspects of the pandemic as well.
Allie, how hard is it for someone to change their mindset and rewire them with
Mhm.
therapy?
I love this question. I love this question. This goes back to neuroscience, which I will admit I do not know much about off the top of my head, but I learned a lot about it in school. And I have many colleagues who went on from school to study neuroscience, like the rewiring of your brain. I think our brains are built for that, all of us. Some people have had maybe trauma, PTSD, mental health, or physical health injuries that have affected the brain. And maybe for them it's more difficult or not as possible. But generally, for most people, rewiring your brain through therapy, 100% possible, I would believe.
What are some signs of somebody having PTSD and trauma in their life? What are some signs for people to be aware of?
Great question. Do you mind if I pull up the list of symptoms so I'm not misquoting?
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you for answering this.
Yes, of course. So
This
I go ahead.
Oh, this is the security part of me. I'm always inquisitive and just love learning, and I really appreciate you explaining to us this.
Of course. Well, I have to say, as someone who's a former teacher, I love when people ask questions and want to learn. And if I have the knowledge, I'm ready to share it. So thank you for being so interested. In terms of PTSD, the most common symptom I think that people know of is when intrusively, you're not doing anything, you're not thinking about it. Suddenly you're back into the memory of whatever that traumatic event was. It's like you're flashback to that. So you'll see that often for people who are in the military who were in active service and saw things that were traumatic. So we call those flashbacks. The next is avoidance of people, places, things that can kind of remind you of that trauma. We've seen this in movies too with military people coming back from war, but the mood changes that you have. Suddenly you're not like the same person you used to be. Your mood and your personality, your cognition has changed significantly. That will also be a sign of PTSD. And then some physical symptoms could be like the panic attacks, people having night terrors, waking up in the middle of the night from that. So that's PTSD that is aligned with one major trauma usually. CPTSD, which is aligned with many traumas over a long period of time, will show up as just emotional dysregulation. So intense moods and outbursts. You have a negative self-concept, persistent having feelings of worthlessness. You have interpersonal difficulties like with relationships, friends, romantic relationships. And then dissociation is a main one for this. And that means you feel like you have left your body. You're just sitting there. You're not in your body anymore. You're standing over here looking at your body. And so that is a major sign for me. When I hear a client say that, I'm thinking, oh, that might be CPTSD.
One thing as well, and I've done this too in the past, is you're stuck in the past. You for a while you don't bring it up, and then something that happened to you traumatically in the past, you bring it up again too. For some
Yes.
people, you have to learn from the past, but you can't keep living in the past.
Yeah, that's true. And I think some people get stuck in that. It might not be PTSD because you have no control over being pulled back to the flashbacks, but some people will ruminate and stay and get stuck in the cycle of the bad things from the past. And it's different than PTSD, but that is still something that therapy can help with.
One thing I wanted to bring up with you too is toxic relationships and toxic work environments, toxic families, toxic friends, toxic that can just it shrinks you as a person and it affects your mental health and it's hard to get out of.
Yes. Yes, that is true. Yeah, I work a lot with couples and families. So I see the relationship dynamics come up. And then even when I work with individuals, they're talking about their relationships with friends, partners, coworkers. And it's really, really hard when every single individual has their own pattern of behaviors. And what happens with the toxic ones is that the other person, their pattern, they're going around in a circle like this, and you're going around in a circle like this. And what they do happens to be a trigger point for you, and you're a trigger point for them. And so that's where the toxicity comes from. It's not recognizing where the pattern is, how you're triggering each other, and how you can change that. And sometimes people don't want to change. So how can you?
I've found this out too that sometimes you can leave a toxic environment, but physically you can be out of it, but there's still impacts with your mental health from it as well.
Correct. Yes. And that's what we might classify as a little trauma on the spectrum because it stays with you.
Ali, what are your thoughts on OCD? Do you find OCD nowadays is increasing as well?
I do actually. And there's two reasons for that. The spectrum for OCD is also widening, just like with PTSD. And we can talk about this, but neurodivergence like autism and ADHD, the spectrum is widening. So more and more people apply to being that diagnosed with one of those things. And OCD is one of them. The other thing about OCD is that it's very, very what we call comorbid, or it coincides with anxiety. So if you have anxiety, the chances of you having OCD increase significantly because the symptoms overlap a ton.
Ali, one of my co-hosts on my other talk show, the Small Talk podcast, Marlene Sharp, she's in the animation cartoon industry, and she works with autism and neurodiversity as well. And what they're doing is getting them into entertainment, into music, acting, and I would love to have you on our show in the future as well to talk to my co-host Marlene Sharp about that as well.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Now, for people we've all experienced, I think I have OCD because I love my vehicle being clean. So I
Okay.
think we all, to some degrees, have OCD and I think anxiety too. What are some ways to diminish, reduce OCD and what else was I going to mention? Anxiety, OCD and anxiety. What are some ways of reducing it?
Great question. I mean, there's specific interventions for both. And it depends what the person is experiencing exactly. But overall, I would say anxiety and OCD is just a dysregulation of your nervous system. And so, what you can do on your own is try to regulate your nervous system. And you've probably heard of things like this, but um, you can tap on either side of your collarbone and your shoulders, and take deep breaths. That brings your nervous system from up here, really hyped and dysregulated, to down to a calmer level. Besides that, you can put your hand on your chest and focus intensely on really deep breathing. Because often with anxiety and OCD, our breath gets shorter and shallower. And so we want to bring that down too, as well.
Can you tell our audience about being a pre-licensed, I guess, or a clinical intern in this case? And what's the process like of being pre-licensed and then being fully certified?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So pre-licensed and me being a clinical intern means that I am in the final year of my master's program. So I'm fully working with clients under a supervisor with a pre-license. and I have to get a certain amount of hours, which is why earlier I was talking about how important having a license is for being a therapist, because it means that you did the work, you did the hours, you got the experience. So over the course of this year, I have to get 700 hours of client work face to face with them, which has been teaching me a lot and giving me a lot of experience. Once I get those 700 hours, then I get a full preliminary license. I will be a licensed professional counselor, LPC. And then the 2 years after that, I have to get 3,000 more hours, which is a lot, but again, there's good reason for it. And then I will be fully capped, highest license possible, as both an LCPC and an LMFT, which is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed clinical professional counselor.
Do you find there's more and more people now on the internet and social media pretending to be therapists when they really aren't qualified?
Yes, I see that all the time. And as someone in my field, my colleagues and I talk about this a lot, it's frustrating because the work that you actually have to do to be able to help people in a safe way, comes from the training that we do by going to school and getting the clinical hours and getting the licenses. And some people, while they might be very empathetic individuals who are very kind and helpful, that's really just being like a good friend and not the same thing as being a therapist, especially not a good therapist.
You just mentioned the word empathy. Do you find empathy and listening skills are shrinking nowadays?
Yes. I think most people feel apathy, and that's coming from social media, which is the opposite of empathy. And yeah, I think that is shrinking in our society. There's a focus, I think, more on individualism and maybe, if I can say, cancel culture as well.
And I find on social media too, you sometimes you see people that have nice homes and cars and the perfect lives, and then it can make you feel kind of sad about your life situation too.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed. Yeah. And people, it's really hard when we're so focused on social media and it looks so real. Um, and we don't know what's going on in the background of that at all. And we can say that. I think people can say, like, oh, I'm watching this perfect family and their perfect life. And I know it can't be perfect, but all you can see is what you can see, and you can't imagine what's not being shown.
Or people getting upset when they get unfriended, deleted, or blocked in some cases too. They're
Yes.
and they're they're too reliant on online friends. Don't get me wrong, it's important, but
Mhm.
you still need to have real life connections too.
Yeah. I would agree with that. There's aspects of that that I find like, yeah, you should make friends on social media, but maybe 5 friends on social media and not 20,000. That's not the same thing. You can't really have friendships with that many people.
Quality over quantity, and just like with my talk show too, I'm more worried about getting good guests and having good shows. The numbers will eventually come, but too many people nowadays on social media seem to be obsessed about having 1 or 2 million followers in them instead of producing better content
Yeah.
and just focusing on the people who actually support their work.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I would agree.
Ellie, if you're still good with time, I just have a few more
Mhm.
questions for you.
Sure.
How do you end up coming about working with Amanda Atkins Counseling Group in Chicago, and how valuable has that experience been as a clinical intern?
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you so much. Um, I found the practice kind of through my school and then kind of through another friend of mine who is also a therapist and had been a clinical intern at Amanda Atkins. So I had heard a lot of good things. And when I met Amanda myself, when I went for an interview, I just felt that what she was looking to do by starting her practice and hiring the therapist that she has and reaching the clients that she has, was something that I really aligned with. Um, she was also willing to offer a lot of support to me as a new therapist at her practice, with a supervisor and I was looking for Spanish speaking clients. I was looking to work with couples and families. And she was willing to support that and help out with it. I've also had a lot of good learning experiences there because they've done trainings on certain types of therapy that I find really important, like internal family systems or IFS, and then emotionally focused therapy, EFT. Those both have been helpful for couples and individuals. So it's been a good experience so far.
What's two words? Two words to describe Amanda.
Gosh. Uh, Motivated and energized. She is such a go-getter. She works so hard and she accomplishes a lot.
What are your thoughts, being a therapist, on virtual sessions compared to in life sessions? Because a lot of things now are virtual, like my show is, but I
Yes.
also do live in person interviews as well. I just wanted to get your thoughts as a therapist, whether you prefer virtual or in person sessions and which ones you feel might work a little bit better.
Yeah, this is an amazing question. And I will tell you, people in my field, my colleagues and I talk about this all the time because I feel we're pretty split on this. It's hard. Virtual therapy sessions didn't really become a thing until the pandemic. Before that, it wasn't even a question. It was you go in person to see your therapist. And then it was unsafe too. And people also started working virtually, and everything became virtual after the pandemic. And so, in a lot of ways, it's been so beneficial because you can see a therapist and maybe it's a better therapist for you that's not even in your city because you don't have to drive there, you see them virtually. um I do think though, on both ends, for the client and for me as the therapist, sometimes in a virtual session something is missing, like the energy that you need, the vibe that you read. You might miss out on someone's body language because you're only seeing them from here up, and that's a really important indicator of emotions.
Body language is huge.
It's huge, especially when you're working with couples. So when I have in-person sessions, sometimes I'm really grumbly about driving there or taking the train, and it's taking me 30 minutes to get to the office, and oh my God, I have to get dressed and go. And then when I get there, seeing a real life human being sitting across from me on the couch, the energy is just different. So there's pros and cons, and it really depends. I'd say I'm 50-50, but I know people who are 100% one way or the other, and it's really hard to decide.
Do you find social skills have also been reduced these days?
I do, and I'm seeing that more in kids, or young adults and teenagers. Again, I don't work with them, but my colleagues that do notice it as well. Um, Kids grew up on tablets and phones, and then the pandemic happened. They did school and everything else on a computer. And I think it is affecting the way that they interact with each other in person. And there's a whole world in which they interact online or virtually. But it's changing the way that we define social skills. And oh, I might be frozen. Sorry. Can
I
you hear
can
me?
still hear you. Yeah, I can
Oh,
still hear you. Yep,
there we go.
you're good. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. We're back.
I
Well,
know. Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's just changing. I think it's changing the way we define social skills because we've defined it a certain way before technology, and now we have to change the definition. Is it good or bad? I don't know, but it's going in that direction. It's not going to change. Technology is going to keep going the way that it is.
I know when I grew up in the 70s and 80s when I was done school, my social media was playing baseball, football, hockey,
Mhm.
basketball after school, or playing or ice skating or
Yeah.
making snow forts, and you don't see that anymore with this generation in
Yeah.
most cases. Tobogganing. I used to love the toboggan too.
Yeah. So fun.
Wanted to ask you this, Ellie, as well. Can you just explain to our audience about integrated therapy methods?
Yeah. That's a great question, also. So, people might have heard of like different types of therapy. Maybe maybe not, but there's CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's probably the most well known and it's been around for decades, studied and researched. Um, It's the traditional talk therapy where you're just kind of sitting on the couch and it's the certain back and forth. But there's other kinds that are kind of related, like dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. What I mentioned, IFS, is internal family systems. I also do somatic therapy, which is related to the body. So integrated means kind of taking all of those and putting them together instead of sticking to one exactly, kind of by the book, by the formula, X plus Y equals Z. We kind of mix them all together into this like kind of beautiful melting pot, depending on what the client needs. And so that's why I think it's the best way to approach therapy, because every single person is different. So you kind of have to adjust to the mix, the recipe that they need.
For your sessions, how long are they on average, and how many sessions do people normally generally take when they come and see a therapist nowadays? Or it just depends on their background?
Yeah, it does depend. Usually sessions are about an hour. In the US, that's how we bill insurance. If people aren't using insurance, we still do about an hour. It depends on people's schedules and timing, but I do have a few clients that I see for an hour and a half. And it's specifically couples, because when you're talking to two people, sometimes you don't get to everything you need to in an hour versus talking to one person. And most people come to therapy once a week, just again because of scheduling. But I do have a few clients who are going through a very tough time right now, and so I see them twice a week.
How satisfying is it knowing that you're able to help people? Or they come up to you and say thank you and you've made an impact in their lives?
Yeah, that has been I appreciate that question. I might get a little emotional, because that has been something that I was actually reflecting on just this week. Um, I had a client tell me, like, I really thought about what you said like all week. And then when this thing happened, I thought of your voice in my head and I did this and it was so much better and I was happy and thank you so much. And I just couldn't, I felt so grateful that I have the life that I have, the career that I have, that I chose this path. Because even that one moment of having a client say something like that to me felt worth it. And it was really exciting.
What are your thoughts on listening skills, especially for being a therapist?
Great question. I'm sorry. I think you kind of asked me that earlier and I didn't really answer it. Uh, Active listening is something that I think not a lot of people know how to do. And it's something that I realized I didn't even fully really know how to do until I started training to be a therapist. It is really important. And that's what therapists can offer that I think like, you might talk to your best friend about your problems and that's great. And it's good that you have that support, but are they actively listening to you? It's might not be the same thing. So I think it's important. It'd be cool if other people could develop the skill, but it's a very hard skill to develop.
One of my early guests is Chuck Swirsky from the Chicago Bulls. He
Mhm.
does the Chicago Bull games. He came on my show 5 years ago. I never thought he would, and he gave me some advice. When I first started doing this, everything was all scripted and that. Chuck gave me some advice. He goes, "It's okay to write points and notes down, but Chris, when you got everything prepared, you're looking down at a piece of paper. You're
Yes.
not actively listening to your guests."
Yes.
So Chuck Swirsky really gave me some good advice, and I still write my questions and points
Yeah.
down, but I think he has helped impact my listening skills, because sometimes you ask a guest a question, they can give you the answers to 5, 10 different questions. And why ask them the same question when they've already answered it?
Right. That's an excellent point, and I agree with you. I love that he gave you that advice.
He's a great guy too, by the way. And he
Yeah.
was in Toronto. He did the Toronto Raptor games for many years, and then he came back to Chicago, which is his home city. And a lot of these professional broadcasters, I have had them on my show, and I've taken some of their feedback and suggestions, and I've used it to improve myself as a broadcaster as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. I can see that.
But
I
you
love
also
it.
Thank you. But you also have to do the work. People can give you tips, some advices, doctors, therapists, lawyers, etc. But it's ultimately up to the individuals to do the work too.
I am so glad you said that, Chris, because this is a common phrase that we say as therapists all the time. Someone can come to therapy and they can show up and sit there every week, but if they're not willing to do the work, the therapist can't magically fix. If you don't want to change, you don't want to change. That goes for therapy and many other things, like you said.
And that's what I'm working on right now with my weight too. Um, my nutritionist, dietitian, they can give me tips and advice, but ultimately I have to put into work to lose the weight. Just like somebody is in therapist, if they want to better themselves as a person and
Mm.
change, they have to put in the work.
Yes, exactly. Yep, that makes sense. It's a good
Yeah,
metaphor.
Ali, as we wrap this show up in a few minutes, I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on bullying, belittling, and people playing small and people pleasing these days. And I can relate to people pleasing. I did that many years.
Yes. Yeah, this is also a great question. And it kind of covers like a broad range. I could talk about each one individually, I think, for on end. Um, but I would say people pleasing, especially, is something that I see a lot in the clients that I have. It's also something I personally struggled with. I think it depends how you grow up and the environment you're in, but I think kids will often be taught that they need to listen and say yes and be obedient to whatever is being asked of them by an authority figure of any kind. And then we carry that over into adulthood as if we have anyone to answer to anymore. But our brains still remember, like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And we're used to it. Um, in terms of bullying and belittling, that is tough because I believe 100% that that is taught to us. So if there are kids bullying or belittling other kids, someone taught them to do that, and I would venture to guess it was their parent, and they are repeating a cycle that has been shown to them. And we find that often. If there's kids that you're working with as a therapist and you notice that they're bullying, you're like, I got to meet the parents because there's a connection there.
It starts
Um,
at home, and I find adults bully probably just as much as kids, if not more.
they do. Yep, I agree. And they pass it on.
And yeah, and as for playing small, I used to do that as well, and I reinvented myself too.
Yeah. Can you tell me what you mean by playing small? Is that just like making yourself smaller?
In a way, like avoid public speaking,
Mm,
stepping out of your comfort zone, stuff
yes.
like that. I've stepped out of my comfort
Yeah.
zone doing things that I wasn't really comfortable with, and
Yeah.
also not avoiding situations anymore either.
Yeah. Okay. This makes a lot of sense. I agree. I think that a lot of people struggle with this as well because we're also taught in the society be this, do that, stay on this path and only do these things. And this is what you are. And it's really hard to break out and say, that's not me. And I want to do something else. I want to be bigger. I want to present myself in these ways. And it's a learning curve, but I encourage everyone to do that. And if you're struggling with feeling like you need to be smaller, that's something maybe to talk about in therapy.
And never be around people that want to keep you small.
Correct. Yeah.
Ali, I was going to play a little video clip from your TikTok page.
Right.
Where can people follow you on social media and your TikTok page?
Oh yeah. So I am on TikTok. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Psychology Today, which is a website we use in the US. I think Canada might use it as well. And of course, the practice I'm at, Amanda Atkins. But I see the links below, and I can link it in the comments as well when people see this. But you just type in the name Ali Therapist or Ali Masterson, and I will pop up.
Any plans for a future book or your own podcast show?
Oh my God, I love this question. Yes, yes to both. I've been dreaming about writing a book. I love writing. I think I'm a good writer. For many, many years. I think that will come later in my life because I'm not sure exactly what topic, but I'd love for it to be therapy related. I need more years of experience and research. But I would love to do a podcast. And I already have so many people that in the mental health therapy world that I'd want to invite on to interview. So I hope that's in my near future, the next couple of years.
And if you do set up a podcast and you need some encouragement or some advice, I'd be happy to pay it forward to you as well.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
And what I love about this show is sometimes I meet people within a week or two, and I feel like I've known them for years. We're building a rapport, and I'm sure you do that
Yes.
with your clients.
Yes, that's exactly what we call it, building rapport. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to play this little video right now from your YouTube channel, or not your YouTube channel, pardon me, TikTok page.
Yes.
And it's just called Taking Care of My Brain, one refill at a time. And let me know if you can hear the audio, okay?
Okay.
Refill my medication with me. Hi, I'm Allie. I am a therapist and I also struggle with mental health illness. So I take medication every day. And if you have to too, that's okay. Let's erase the stigma. Here is my newest medication refill. I take 1,200 milligrams of gabapentin per day, 300 4 times a day. My psychiatrist is currently on parental leave. So they gave me, I think this is 90 days worth. To make it more fun and motivating for me to take pills 4 times a day, sometimes more, I take it out of this crazy thing and put it into a fun, cute vessel. So I got these at a vintage shop in Chicago in Andersonville. This one's kind of empty, but my vitamins are in here. I got some. And this is where I keep my gabapentin. Oh, she's filled to the brim. Okay. Easy as that. We don't need this bad boy anymore. And we have a cute little container to pull my pills out of every morning. Gabapentin helps me function every day, the best version of myself. And that means that my anxiety is not in the driver's seat, which it would be if I didn't have this medication to help. So, cheers.
Thoughts on this video and also the power of TikTok?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you choosing this one to play because I think that, first of all, there's a stigma around taking medication. And I'm not super pro medication, but I certainly don't stigmatize it. And I want to help people realize that if they're struggling with any sort of mental health issues, that medication can be like a soft Band-Aid to kind of land on while you're dealing with the difficult stuff and going to therapy. And for me, that means disclosing a little bit about my own self and my own personal life, saying, hey, I have anxiety too. I also have OCD, and that's why I take that medication. And it makes me the best version of myself. And if anyone is hesitant about medication, but wants to try it, I encourage them to, so that they can maybe have a better quality of life while they're working on themselves.
What are your thoughts on natural remedies?
I fully support and believe and agree with them. I've also tried like different supplements and full disclosure, some psychedelics and plant medicines. I believe they work and they have worked for me. So it's just a matter of what each individual person needs. I currently have a client with ADHD who did not want to take Ritalin or Adderall, understandably because of the side effects and the strong stimulant. And he takes mushrooms like lion's mane mushrooms and ashwagandha and all these like supplements he puts into his smoothie and these vitamins. And he feels better and more focused. And if that works for him, that's huge. Whatever it takes to kind of give you that boost that you need, I think is beneficial.
What are your thoughts on walking 30 minutes a day and also getting proper sleep as well? And I'm guilty of this too. I'm on my cell phone a lot, and sometimes I'm on my laptop to 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah. Yes. Me too. I think every human has had this similar experience, and there is science behind walking and sleeping and how important that is. And we live in a world where you don't always have time or access or ability to do those things. Maybe you're working 2 or 3 jobs. Maybe you live in a city where you can't walk down the street anywhere. And maybe you're stressed or depressed and it affects your sleep. It is really, really important to do, and it's not always easy. So it's a catch-22.
Now, with your clients, do you work with clients that are suffering from depression as well?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Do you find it's increased with what's going on right now?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I'd say depression and anxiety specifically are on the rise because of everything that's going on, especially in the US.
What would you tell somebody right now who's watching this or listening to, they're having a difficult time? What advice would you give to those people?
Great question. Um, I would say if you're having a difficult time, you're not alone. A lot of people are. And however you feel and however you're managing it is valid, even if you think that maybe it's not the healthiest or the best way. But whatever you can do to um, give yourself the support that you need and give the people around you what they need is something that I would lean into at this time. And if you can find other resources like access to therapy, I would encourage it. But not everyone has that privilege. So, whatever you need to cope that feels healthy and manageable would be what I advise.
Allie, do you find with social media nowadays, everything being digital, do you find people's attention spans are shrinking too?
Yeah, I would say that. I think that that's how the algorithms and social media has been designed. I'm seeing a pattern of it in many people who um, will either report that they had longer attention spans before, or I know them personally, so I knew it. I see it in myself. I think that's one of the detriments of technology right now, and they're doing it for a reason too. So.
Where can people who are in the Chicago area and they're interested in seeing a therapist, how can they get in touch with you?
Great question. They can email me directly if they want. My email address is Allie,Ally, the letter M for Masterson, at amandaatkinschicago.com. And if they're interested in working with me, great. If not, I can always provide referrals to maybe some other therapists that they might be interested in working with.
And I have the information down here on my graphic ticker too as well.
Yes. Thank you.
As we end up the show, this is a segment I do with all my guests. What's a fun fact about yourself, Allie, and a fun fact about the therapy industry and city of Chicago?
Oh my God, this is great. Okay, so 3 fun facts. Fun fact about me. I love to travel. It's my main biggest hobby, and I'll be going on a random solo backpacking trip to Colombia in about a month. I'm really excited. So that's a fun fact about me. And then a fun fact about the therapy industry. Ooh, I love this. People probably don't, or maybe they do realize this, but there is a lot of drama in the therapy industry. And you'd think that for a bunch of people who kind of work on their emotions by being therapists, that there wouldn't be so much drama, but there is. And I think maybe that's just because we're all human and we love drama. So that's a fun fact about that. And then the city of Chicago. Oh my God. This is what could I think of? Oh, this is a spooky fun fact. Brookfield Zoo I'm not Brookfield Zoo. We have 2 zoos. Not Brookfield Zoo, Lincoln Park Zoo. It's in the city, in the neighborhood of Lincoln Park. It's right on the lake. There is a cemetery underneath it. And it comes from the time of the Chicago fire, just before the Chicago fire in the 1800s. None of the bodies were moved. They just built the zoo on top of it. So whenever you're there, just know you're walking on a graveyard and maybe you'll see a ghost.
I do believe in ghosts, by the way.
I do too. Yes. Yep. So just so you know, when you're going to see the animals at Lincoln Park Zoo, you could be walking over someone's grave.
You were mentioning Colombia. Obviously, you're going to Colombia. You think of Colombia, think of coffee. Are you a coffee drinker too?
Yes. Yeah, I am. I'm very excited to have the fresh Colombian coffee there. I love coffee. How about you?
Not a coffee drinker. And about 15 years ago, I had to give up ice caps, which are frozen coffee drinks. I was working a lot of night shifts, and I have heart problems in my family. And the one day my heart was speeding up, I went and saw my doctor, and first thing he says, "You drink Red Bull?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Do you drink a lot of ice caps, which are frozen coffee drinks
Yeah.
here?" And I was drinking 2 or 3 a day, and he goes, "Cut them out." And I haven't had one in over 15 years, and I've never had any issues as well. So coffee, I stay away from because it's addicting, and it also can speed up your heart if you have too much caffeine.
Yeah, I see that. Yep. Well, it's a good thing that you're taking care of your health.
Yes, and I now need to take care of my weight. So after I'm done this show, I've got to go for a half an hour walk and
Okay.
just get my legs moving and walking and stuff like that. Being in media, you do a lot of sitting and standing, and you do have to move. You have to get up and move. It's good for your mental health and your physical body as well. Our bodies are like a car. If you neglect them, at some point you will pay the price.
Yeah, I see that. I agree.
So the next time you see me, hopefully I'll be a little slimmer. That's my next goal.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you're feeling healthy and all your numbers are good, then that
Yes.
is a good thing. Yep.
Ask the host CDP a question. Do you have a question for me as we wrap this up?
Yeah, this is great. I would love to know what is one short-term goal that you have for like the next year, the year 2026.
I just want to. I originally I wanted to get it back into traditional radio, back into a studio, and that could still happen. But for me, I just want to continue to get great guests on here, have great shows. I want to get more advertisers, sponsors, and just to continue to build my own brand up. And I just want people to enjoy this show and the diversity. It's very diverse guests, topics, and stories. It's just. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I have a passion for this, and it's the guests that make a great show.
Yeah, definitely. That is really, really cool. Thanks, Chris.
Well, thank you, Ellie, and it's the guests that make a great show. I'm very lucky.
Yeah. I'm lucky that you asked me to join. I'm grateful to be here. So thank you.
Give me a little bit of time tonight, and I can send you the full video, the
Okay.
audio, and then some reels and clips, and I can tag you in on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube as well.
That would be great. And I'll repost everything. That's perfect.
Thank you so much. Where again can our audience follow you on social media, your website, and the best way of contacting you?
Yeah. So TikTok and Instagram, I'm just under Allie,Ally therapist. I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Allie Masterson. Same with Psychology Today. And then contacting me, you can email my practice email address, which is ALLY, the letter M, at AmandaAtkinsChicago.com.
Well, Ellie, I want to say thank you so much for giving us over 80 minutes of your time today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and Valentine's Day. And you have an open invite to come back on my show again in the future or my other show as well.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that.
And if you ever do get back to Toronto or Ontario,
Mhm.
please let me know. Same with me getting back to Chicago as well.
Agreed. Definitely. Yeah.
And Goose Island has the best beer in Chicago.
It's pretty good. Goose Island's pretty good. I'll agree with
Goose
you.
Island and deep dish pizza. Not good for my diet, but it is good. But
It's good
and
for the soul.
yes, so thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed speaking with you, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll talk to you soon on social media.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chris.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, Allie. Bye.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody, that wraps up the Happy Valentine's Day 2026 edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by our friends at barrycullen.com. And I want to say thank you to my guest today, Allie Masterson. She's a pre-licensed clinical therapist in Chicago for coming on our show. As we wrap up this show, this is my 5th show this week in 6 days. 4 live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk shows, 1 small talk podcast with Marlene Sharp and myself. So thank you everyone for watching and listening to my 5 shows this week with my 6 amazing guests, including Allie Masterson, a pre-licensed clinical therapist in Chicago as well. My next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show brought to you by BarryCullen.com. It's going to take place on Family Day here in Ontario, Monday, February 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Lisa Smith Swint, a teacher turned stand-up comedian in the state of New Jersey. So Lisa Smith Swint is going to come on and talk to us about her transition from being a lifelong teacher into being a professional stand-up comedian as well. So Monday, February 16th, 7 p.m. with Lisa Smith Swint, teacher turned stand-up comedian from the state of New Jersey. As we wrap up this show, guys, again, you can follow my guest today, Ellie, on TikTok. She's also on Instagram, and she has got some websites as well. She's on psychologytoday.com, therapist, and she's also on her website is Ellie Masterson as well. So please check out my guest, Ellie Masterson, on her social media sites, especially TikTok and Instagram as well. The Cambridge District Humane Society on Saturday, April 11th, 2026, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the Cambridge Newfoundland Club, located at 1500 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. They are having their Prohibition Speakeasy fundraising event from the 1920s. Tickets are only $75 per ticket, and the money goes back to the programs at the Cambridge District Humane Society. And you can purchase your tickets at cambridgehumanesociety.org, or you can see Zach and Kat at the Cambridge District Humane Society, which is located at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario, right across from the Cambridge Centre Mall. And you can call them at 519-623-7722 extension 0. And also, if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society. They have wonderful cats and dogs down there. And there's dogs down there like Daisy, Christopher, Bernie, that are looking for forever homes and families as well. And if you're looking to volunteer like I do twice a week as a dog walker, you can go to cambridgehumanesociety.org and click on the volunteer form as well. And all the pets that are up for adoption, cats and dogs and the pets, you can find out their pet profile information on cambridgehumanesociety.org. They do a wonderful job in looking after our furry friends and ensuring they get into good families and good homes as well. And as they say at the Cambridge District Humane Society, you can't buy happiness, but you can adopt it. Again, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society. If you're looking to book a video from yours truly, a personalized video, go to cameo.com and type in Chris Palme. I do happy Hanukkah, happy birthday, happy anniversary, congratulations. Or if you want to ask me questions about my 3 talk shows, some of my favorite guests and interviews and stories about my sports career, please book a Cameo today, cameo.com/Chris Palme. Look forward to doing your requests. You can also follow me on Blue Sky Social at Live with CDP19 on Blue Sky Social. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, is live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. You can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or their great selection of all-electric vehicles or Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com. You can follow this full-time content creator on TikTok at Chris Palme. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or live streaming or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans, paid professional plans. And again, if you're a business that does a lot of webinars, go to StreamYard.com and contact their sales department for pricing as well. Yours truly, here on Live with CDP, has been with StreamYard now for 5 years. I give them a big thumbs up. Finally, guys, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. The audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share. And also check out my YouTube channel, Chris Palme Live with CDP Talk Show. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. And thank you to everyone who subscribed and has viewed my YouTube channel and my YouTube shorts as well. Finally, guys, you can email the show live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show at cpalme19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And finally, guys, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, X, Threads, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Blue Sky Social, everywhere except Snapchat. And that wraps up my show today, guys. This is my 5th show this week in 6 days with 6 guests. And again, thank you to Ali Masterson, a pre-licensed clinical therapist in Chicago, for coming on here today. And thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet for advertising and sponsoring this show. And thank you to everyone watching this show on live stream and on my audio platforms as well. And if you're a business that's looking to advertise on a show like mine, you can email me at cpalme19@gmail.com, or you can contact me on my social media pages as well. My prices are really reasonable and competitive, and I look forward to hearing from you and working with your business and getting your advertising on live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. I hope everybody has a great, happy Valentine's Day here on the Saturday, February 14th. And also for those people here in Ontario, I want to wish you a happy Families Day holiday on Monday, February 16th as well. Again, my next live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show brought to you by BarryCullen.com. Monday, February 16th, 7 p.m. with special guest first appearance, Lisa Smith-Swent, a teacher turned into a stand-up comedian in New Jersey. So happy Valentine's Day, happy Family Day, and we'll see you back here Monday night at 7 o'clock for another edition of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme, and brought to you by our friends at BarryCullen.com. Have a great weekend, everybody.